It's 8 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy. I am your radio friend and buddy, and I am a dog wrangler this week. I'm wrangling dogs.
Doing daddy dog duty.
Well,
Or
I
dog
am.
daddy
Well,
duty.
there's a lot of duty with these dogs. I'll tell you that for sure. I'm taking care of that problem. No, we got we have a little puppy Solo and Mama Grogu, and Dawn is out of town. She's visiting with her family down in Florida for the next few days. So I'm the sole provider for two very needy dogs at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So at 5 o'clock when we go to the news, I take a little bathroom break. I go over to the house and I check on the dogs, and one dog was missing. I could not find Grogu.
Uh-oh.
I mean, I was looking high and low. I was, usually she's snuggled down on the couch just waiting for me to come home, and she's not where she's supposed to be, and I'm looking around. Now I'm starting to panic because the dog is not answering. The dog's not coming running. Normally, sometimes she gets back in the bedroom and the door closes behind her and she can't get out, not having opposable thumbs and all that.
Yeah.
So, she wasn't there. She wasn't in the master bathroom, which is that same thing can happen there. She was in like in a far bedroom that she never goes into. She had gotten locked in there.
Uh-oh.
Got in, and then the door, closed behind her, and she couldn't get it open. So she was very glad to see me.
I bet she was. She thought she was never going to get out.
She thought she was trapped. Now, I didn't take a moment to look in the bedroom to see what kind of mayhem might have occurred.
Well, it'll be there next time.
Yeah. The Cabana wife needs to get back home ASAP. I'm telling you. These dogs are a lot of work. People are wanting to know about Solo. She's doing so good. There was a video that I put out this weekend on my social media page. It's Brian Wilson 997. That's how you can know it's the right Brian Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
And they are just adorable together. I mean, Grogu's laying on her back, and the puppy is sort of mauling her, and sort of playing and being.
Like they were having a ball.
They were having a blast, and now the zoomies have started because this little dog is now starting to motor around.
Mm-hmm.
And when she started to motor, that's when Grogu decided, oh, now this is going to be fun. I got a playmate now.
Yep.
And so I have the puppy, 6 weeks old tomorrow, and then I have Grogu, who is, has sort of gotten out of the puppy stage. Now she's sort of acting like a puppy again.
Yeah.
It's fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
It really is fun to watch. But anyway, I'll be glad when Cabana wife comes and takes over some of these responsibilities, because half my day, I look up and it's like, where's my day gone? You've been dealing with puppy stuff.
They require a lot
and
of
by
attention.
stuff, I mean stuff.
Stuff of all varieties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. I don't know what to think about this. So you're taking a little flight on Alaska Airlines. You get into a bright, shiny, brand new Boeing 737 MAX 9, which is the latest iteration of the Boeing aircraft. And you take off and you get about 16,000 feet. And the security door, this is where I always sit on a 737. I sit in the exit row, the one where, if there's something happens, you're going to help people, going to get the door open, you're going to get people out on the wing, you're going to help people get out of the aircraft. They make you, sign a sword oath every time you have to raise your hand and take the official, I will help oath. Will you do this? I need a verbal answer from you. Yeah, well, that's where I sit. That little exit row about halfway back in the aircraft, the door just blew off at 16,000 feet. Now, most aircraft, they cruise at 30,000 feet. So thank goodness it wasn't all the way up. But to have a massive failure like this at only 16,000 feet before the pressure, really gets up there, the higher you go, the more pressure there is. And to have this door blow out at 16,000 feet was pretty scary. Thank goodness there was nobody in that row, which is hard to believe because most airlines, they give you a little more leg room, and that's usually one of the first rows to go for tall people or something, but nobody was there. And so there were some people, at least nobody they're willing to admit. There was nobody there. There were people right behind it. And there are these pictures. I know you've seen them on Fox News and other places. This big gaping hole in the aircraft where the exit door used to be there, the exit window, or whatever you want to call it. Shares of Boeing have tumbled as much as 9% on Monday as investors digested news that the Federal Aviation Administration has ordered airlines to ground dozens of Boeing 737 MAX 9 aircraft for urgent inspections. The FAA issued the order on Saturday after a door plug blew out in the middle of an Alaska Airlines flight on Friday when the nearly brand new aircraft was flying at around 16,000 feet. Boeing stock recovered some of its losses mid-morning after the aircraft manufacturer issued inspection instructions to airlines, key steps toward resuming flight. Shares were down about 6% after that happened. Shares of Alaska Airlines were down about 1% mid-morning. Spirit Aerosystems, which makes fuselages for the 737 MAX, were down 7%. So large-scale groundings by aviation authorities are rare, but the FAA has been scrutinizing Boeing and its best-selling 737 MAX since the fatal crashes in 2018 and 2019. Boeing said it agrees with the FAA's decision to ground the MAX 9 planes. I mean, the thing about it is 737s, say what you will, are generally the workhorses of the industry. By and large, Boeing, flies more, has more aircraft in the air than any other aircraft manufacturer in the world. And Southwest Airlines only flies 737s, for example. I like the 737. I like the earlier iterations. Those things were tanks. I mean, they're just indestructible. But the MAX 8 had problems, and now the MAX 9 has got problems. And it raises real questions about Boeing and whether or not they're capable of stretching this 737 into a bigger aircraft, and some of the things that are happening as they do that. United Airlines has the most MAX 9s, 79. And Alaska Airlines has 65. But, I mean, this is not like you take it in and you make a minor adjustment and you tighten a bolt. This is a structural integrity issue, and it very well could cause problems for Boeing. Apparently, they found the blown-out plane panel in the backyard. A school teacher found it. And you've seen the video with people have their oxygen masks on, etc. And I mean, and they're literally flying an aircraft, and you see the city lights below, and there's a gaping hole in the side of the aircraft. I mean, these things are, that probably is not enough to bring one down, although, I mean, at 35,000 feet, it could have been much more catastrophic. I mean, a flight attendant might have been sucked out the door, or you might have had something else happen. But at 16,000 feet, they were able to dive down quickly to get to a lower altitude. But can you imagine the cold air, at 16,000 feet, just blowing through the entire cabin as they tried to bring the thing back? Scary. Speaking of this, I happened to watch a documentary this weekend on Netflix because, all I have to do with my life is take care of dogs and watch TV. And so I'm watching this. It's about that Malaysian flight 370, I think it was, that disappeared out of nowhere, never has been found. Fascinating story. One of the things that I did not know, this was shocking to me, was that particular aircraft, the avionics bay, you could enter the avionics bay of that aircraft from the cabin. I mean, and it was unlocked. So anybody who wanted to get into the avionics bay, all they had to do was cause a distraction for a moment, and you go and you lift up a little piece of carpet. I mean, it's just like a little rug, and you open the hatch and you can drop down into the avionics bay where all the controls are. So the question is, was the reason they were asking that question was, that flight is flying out of Malaysia, and it just, all communications went dead. All the communications went dead. There wasn't anything. I mean, there wasn't a transponder, there wasn't a pinger, there wasn't a radio, there wasn't a transponder, nothing. And it just, when that happens, the aircraft virtually disappears off of radar. And so could somebody have gotten into that avionics bay and turned off all of that stuff? It was of all the things I learned, a lot of speculation, a lot of wild ideas in that documentary. But how in the world can you consider an aircraft to be secure when you lock the cockpit door, but anybody in the cabin would have access to the avionics bay where all of the electronics and the circuit breakers and all of that stuff and the computers that run the aircraft are all down there? It's a really fascinating documentary. I don't think I learned, I don't think I have an idea what happened to it, but it certainly was shocking that that was possible. Isn't that something? Apparently they've changed that since. Now they're locking the hatches. You have to have a key to get in there. But until that was revealed during the investigation, nobody knew. Other economic news, Americans are racking up credit card debt at a higher level than you might imagine. Growing number of Americans are racking up credit card debt in order to pay for their everyday necessities, a trend that might be a harbinger of economic troubles ahead, according to a new report from Bankrate. This from Fox Business. Nearly half of credit card holders, about 49%, are carrying credit card debt from month to month. That is a sharp increase from 2 years ago, when only about 39% of Americans with credit card carried debt month to month. More than half of Americans' credit card and debt have gone up over a year. More concerning are those who are holding credit card at 10% do not think they will ever pay off their bills. Another 25% say they pay off their debt at some point, but it'll be at least 5 years in the future. I don't know. Seems like that 5 years never gets there when you keep putting stuff on your credit card, right? And then there's this. Offices around America are hit with new vacancy records. I've been watching this for some time now, and I think this is something of concern for Nashville, for example, because not as many people are occupying office buildings. We seem to have a glut of them around the country. The 19.6% of office space, nearly 20% that isn't leased, is the highest since 1979. A staggering nearly 20% of office space in major U.S. cities wasn't leased as of the fourth quarter. That's slightly above previous records set in 1986. You know what was going on then. It was not good. In 1991, the highest number since at least 1979. That's as far back as Moody data go. Remote work has upended the office market. Those people who work at home are just messing it up. What's wrong with those folks? Much of the market current malaise traces back to the office market turndown of the 80s and 90s. We had surges in the 80s and early 90s, followed by years of overbuilding. I think we overbuilt. I think when we got into the pandemic, a lot of people decided they didn't need to work downtown. They could work from home, and now we have a glut of office space in Nashville and other major cities in America. 22 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
A Navy officer charged after telling secrets to China, juvenile crime in Tennessee, and an update on a viral video you may have seen regarding a case in Las Vegas. That and more 5:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat.
That's right, it's time for Mac Morey's Wide, Wild World of Sports. And now here is the host of our program. With no further ado, you know him, you love him, you can't live without him. Here's Mac Morey.
Woo! Oh, yeah, we got a busy one today, Brian.
Yeah, we got stuff happening.
Lots of stuff happening in the sports world.
A lot of stuff popping right now in the world of sports.
Yes.
And is any word on what's happening in our own backyard? Anything happen?
Nothing yet. No breaking news on that end as far as Mike Vrabel's future with the Titans is concerned, or any news with what the Titans may do with Derrick Henry, if they'll try to re-sign him as he becomes a free agent. So much stuff happening. Today in the NFL is known as Black Monday. So
right. Yeah.
Lots of coaches get fired, whether it be coordinators or head coaches. General managers have gotten fired today. And one name, a coach familiar to Tennessee, Atlanta's head coach, Arthur Smith, was fired today. He used to be Tennessee Titans offensive coordinator when their offense was really humming with Tannehill and Derrick Henry, the AFC Championship appearance. That's all Arthur Smith, and there have been rumblings that maybe if Vrabel stays, he would bring back his friend Smith as an OC because they had success together. But let's start with the game on Sunday because that's the headliner, right? We talked about the Titans on Friday. They could be playing spoiler, or they could, say, hey, let's lose this one. Let's get a better draft position. And they said, to hell with that. We're taking down our division rival. We're ending their postseason hopes at Nissan Stadium, 28-20. A fantastic win that featured great runs from Derrick Henry, some, blast from the passes from Ryan Tannehill, and some nice defensive stands, especially at the end of the game, a fourth down stop to seal the victory and to end what's been a grim season on a rather high note. It was great. It was a fun game.
It was, but the thing I keep wondering is, okay, so there was a motivation to have Derrick Henry go out on a good note, potentially Tannehill out on a good note, maybe even Vrabel out on a good note. So it seems like the team rose to that level that we've not seen for a while.
Yeah.
We got exceptional performances. It says to me that with the right motivation, we can win games.
Yes.
Well, why didn't we not have the right motivation? And what's going on that people aren't giving us their best the rest of the season? That's what I walked away with it from.
Yeah, and that's fair. There's lots of moving pieces there with it. I think Week 18 has got a lot of different tendencies to it, and motivation being one of those. I mean, there's guys that are fighting for incentives. There are guys that are fighting for future contracts, whether that be with the Tennessee Titans or their hope for their career on another NFL team. So there's lots of moving pieces with that. I definitely think, you got to look at it from the flip side, too. Jacksonville Jaguars, they were 8-3. They had the chance to be the number one seed in the AFC midseason. They lost 5 of their last 6 games, and they missed the playoffs. That team was putrid towards the last month and a half of the season, and the Titans were a team that could play with them. I mean, that Jacksonville Jags team was just not, hitting on all cylinders, and they showed it. They weren't ready for big Derrick Henry either, and it could have been maybe his last game as the Tennessee Titan. He gave a farewell speech to Nissan Stadium at the end of the game. And I think we should play that and just let everyone hear what Derrick Henry had to say to the people of Nashville.
Titan fans, I just want to say thank you for the greatest 8 years of my life, the ups and the downs. Y'all been there for everything, through the adversity, watching me grow as a person and a player, always supporting me. I love y'all. I love seeing the 22s in the stadium. Hopefully I was an inspiration to all the young kids and everybody in the community. Just thank y'all so much. Man, God is good. And tighten up, baby.
Tighten up.
Tighten up.
What I draw from that is he's a class guy.
Yeah.
And the second thing I draw from that is I would not want to try to sing the national anthem with that kind of echo.
Seriously, right?
Serious echo.
Unbelievable. Yeah. He stayed focused, though. He made it through the speech without stumbling, because that is pretty hard.
And it's very hard to do, by the way, if you've ever had to speak in a big arena where you have that echo. It's hard to do, but he did a great. But it was the right thing to do But it sounds like to me, it's fait accompli. He's
Yeah,
not
that's
going
what
to be
I'm-
here not season.
That's
He's
what
not
I
gonna be here
take from
next
it too. Yeah, I mean, you would have to assume that talks would have,
Yep.
if he was going to come back, if the odds were in that favor, then he wouldn't have been giving that speech.
No, exactly. And he made it clear that his goal is to win and that he'd love to win a Super Bowl with the Tennessee Titans, but he also is realistic and he knows that he's 30 years old. He's a running back, and this franchise isn't there. Not in the next year, not in the next couple years, and that's pretty much his timeline. And speaking of timelines, Vrabel's timeline is a big storyline right now as well, monitoring whether he may be on this team in the future. From Josina Anderson with ESPN today, or formerly with ESPN, I don't know where she's at anymore. She's got sources around the league. She basically says they're calling it 50-50 right now, her sources, on whether, they don't really know whether he's going to be with the team. And Brian, you mentioned it earlier in the show, he is meeting with the front office, with the franchise this week. We don't know when that meeting is going to be held, but they're discussing the future of the franchise and what that holds and if he's going to be a part of that plan.
And very briefly, we're way over, I know,
Sorry,
but
yeah.
there's so much to talk about.
I know.
Tannehill, quickly.
Tannehill played a good game, and, he was pretty upfront. He said he loved playing with the Titans. You can sense some sort of frustration with him over the last year. I don't think he loves that he was benched for Will Levis, but I think he also, it is understandable. I think he also knows that it was well-deserved, that he wasn't playing up to the standard that the Titans held for him, and he's really excited. He believes that he still has football left to be played in him, and he's excited to go elsewhere.
All right. Thank you very much, Mac Morey. Time now for the news. It is 32 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock.
.532, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 50 degrees in Nashville, wind advisory in effect starting in about 30 minutes. It'll last until midnight on Wednesday. Could see gusts of up to 45 miles an hour, and showers pretty much are a sure thing for tonight as well. Full forecast, latest traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. A United States Navy sailor from Southern California who took bribes in exchange for sending sensitive military information to a Chinese intelligence officer now heading to federal prison. Alex Stone reports from Los Angeles.
Thomas Zhao will be on supervised release for 2 years when he gets out. U.S. Attorney Martina Estrada says information Zhao sold included plans for a large-scale U.S. military exercise in the Indo-Pacific region. Zhao detailed the location and timing of naval movements.
We don't want that information getting out there for good reason, because it could be a safety risk.
Zhao pocketed nearly $15,000 in bribes from a Chinese intelligence officer from 2021 to 2023. He pled guilty in October.
Juvenile crime in Tennessee. Police said that a 16-year-old student at Glencliff High School has been charged after being found with a firearm on the property. The teen ran from the school and a random search was being conducted. He was found at a nearby church hiding a pistol. Police also found a vape and a firearm magazine during that search. And the man seen on viral video attacking a Las Vegas judge was back for his sentencing today. Last week, he refused to leave his jail cell, and today he was forced to appear in court. Here's Alex Stone.
Last week, chaos in the courtroom when 30-year-old Deober Redden jumped, flying over the bench and attacked Judge Mary Kay Holthus as she was sentencing him for a baseball bat attack on a victim last year. Today, he was back, this time surrounded by police, in shackles, a spit mask, and gloves to prevent him from scratching. The same judge giving him up to 2 years in prison on the original charges. He'll have to go back to court on new charges for the courtroom attack.
And that is the latest news, weather, and traffic next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Let me talk to you about Nashville Golden Coin and gold. Gold, has been used as money for millennia. It's a tried and true store of value, consistent across generations. So, here's the thing about gold and silver and platinum. They are tangible, things that you can actually hold, touch, possess, put into your safe, look at. It's there, and it always has value. Sometimes right now your dollars are losing a lot of value because of inflation. Gold and silver can be a safe haven during uncertain economic times. You can learn all about the importance of owning precious metals by going to Nashville Golden Coin. Maybe you have gold that was given to you as a gift, or you inherited it. You're not sure what it's worth, or you're just curious about the metals, precious metals like gold, silver, platinum. Want to learn more? Well, the place to go is Nashville Golden Coin. They are always available to discuss your options, educate you on the precious metals market. So you should do what I did. Go to Nashville's real money source, Nashville Golden Coin. That's right. Set up your one-on-one appointment at NashvilleGoldandCoin.com. Hey, it's 39, let's call it 40 minutes past the hour, 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air on this Monday, January 8th. Get ready. It's going to get breezy. Really, really, really breezy. But it won't be as cold here as it's going to be in Iowa next Monday. What did you say, 3?
Yeah, I think it was 3 degrees.
3
for the high.
degrees is the forecast for Iowa on Monday.
Negative
and I'll be
7
there.
or something at night.
Yeah, I know. It's goodness gracious. That's just brutal. But that's where I'll be a week from today. I've been checking out all my radio road gear, and we are ready to go. We've checked it twice, and it all works. And we're going to be going to Iowa, and I'll be doing my broadcast from Iowa 1 week from today for the Iowa caucuses. I'll be arriving on Saturday. By the way, really a hearty thanks to the folks at Busy Bee, HVAC and Plumbing, and also Charlie Daniels Journey Home Projects, who are sponsoring the trip, and we appreciate that. They've been, the folks at Busy Bee have been with me since the very beginning. We greatly appreciate their support. And then the idea is, you're going to have somebody with eyes and ears on the ground bringing you all the information. And so we'll be doing that. I'll be checking in throughout the day with all the other guys. Dan Mandis in the morning on Monday. And then it'll be, then Chris Hand after that, and then Matt Murphy after that, and then I'll be doing the show from 3 until 7 o'clock there, and very well. I wouldn't want to call it balmy.
Wouldn't be the right
very
word, no.
very frigid Des Moines, Iowa. But that's all right. I'm tough. I come from good stock. I'll be fine. Just more and more layers. Layers is the key. That's what
right.
I keep. That's right. Illegal aliens. This is a shocking and stunning statistic. We have a lot of people who come across the border. They get their little piece of paper and they say, "Well, I want to claim asylum. I feel like I'm in danger back home. I need asylum." And then they get a piece of paper and a promise to check in at some point. According to this shocking statistic, illegal aliens arriving at the United States border have less than a 5% chance of being deported under President Joe Biden's Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE data reveals. Figures detailed in their fiscal report for 2023 show that illegal aliens arriving under the Biden administration have a very small chance of being promptly deported from the U.S. In fiscal year 2023, more than 3.2 million illegal aliens were encountered at the nation's border, while only 142,580 were deported by ICE agents over the same period. In practice, illegal aliens who arrived in the U.S. had just a 4.4% chance of being deported within 1 year. That's shocking. In fact, so, when, they say, well, we're doing everything we can to dissuade people from coming. Well, if there's a 96% chance that they're going to get in when they get here, that they're going to be allowed to stay, why wouldn't you take that chance? There's only a 4.4% chance you're going to be rejected and sent back home. They're letting everybody in. I mean, that's unbelievable. 3.2 million encountered and only 142,000 turned away. 4.4%. Wow. Alejandro Mayorkas can't play it both ways. He's already publicly admitted he released at least 70% of the 10 million illegal aliens encountered by Customs and Border Protection in the past 3 years. He can't then go portray himself as the Secretary of Immigration Enforcement based on deportations, especially when you examine the numbers to scale. The American people stopped believing his lies a long time ago. He's going to be impeached. I'll tell you, the real question here is, he's going to be impeached by the House. I mean, it's going to be a unanimous Republican vote. He's going to be impeached. It's going to be sent over to the Senate. And I think there'll be some Democrats who will vote in favor of impeachment in the House. Will the Senate pick up the impeachment and go forward? I mean, can Democrats actually defend what's happening at the border? I think the pressure really needs to be turned up on Democrats to say, if you do not impeach Mayorkas, you are assuming, you are in fact saying that you support the Biden border policy, and put them on record, and then run against them because I mean, the one thing that I know about America is they're not upset. They are not happy about what's happening with regard to the border. They're very upset about this. Listen to this though. Representative Kat Cammack, Congresswoman Kat Cammack, was on today with that nice Harris Faulkner on Fox News. Listen to what she said about this whole situation. I mean, there's shocking news to be revealed in this little soundbite. Pay attention.
He has lied repeatedly to Congress. He has been negligent in his duties. He needs to go. He needs to be impeached. Our national security depends on it.
Do you think it'll happen?
Absolutely. I have yet to meet one Republican. Heck, I even know of some Democrats that are anxious to get rid of him. And let me remind you, when behind closed doors, we told him, you're getting ready to be impeached. He said, you're not going to like who comes next. I asked him if that was a threat.
Whoa.
He just smiled. This man is dangerous. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he is two-faced. We need to get rid of him now.
What did he mean, who comes next?
Well, that was the big question. I asked him, I said, is that a threat? And he just smiled. And I thought, this man knows exactly what he's doing. This is 100% by design. They want an open border crisis, whether it is for a election, whether it's for future votes as they work to get rid of citizenship as a requirement for voting. We're not sure, but he was very, very clear in what he said, and there were other members in the room. So I will never forget that. And as we go to impeach him for his negligence, for him destroying our national security and eroding our national sovereignty, that will be top of mind.
Well, the thing about it is Mayorkas is only doing what Biden wants him to do. He has Biden's complete confidence, and that means that he's doing the bidding of the president. This is bigger than Mayorkas, but will Mayorkas be impeached? Yes. Will he be convicted? I don't know, but I doubt it. But I'm happy to put a bunch of Democrats on record as saying they support Mayorkas means they support what he's doing on the border, and I don't think that's going to play well when it comes re-election. Now, there's a good 60-second or 30-second ad you could run against anybody who says they believe Mayorkas was doing the right thing, because Americans don't like what's happening on the border. By and large, they're very clear, and then all of the opinion polls. So he's going to be impeached. What's going to happen with Hunter Biden? Where the investigation of Hunter Biden continues. He has flagrantly defied Congress, his requirement that they come for a sit-down interview behind closed doors, a deposition, if you will. On Monday, the House Oversight Committee offered a resolution recommending that he be held in contempt of Congress over his refusal to comply with the subpoena they previously issued. This, according to the Post-Millennial. Instead of complying with the subpoena to be deposed before House Oversight, Biden gave a speech on the Senate side of the Capitol. You remember, the committee broke down their case against the president's son, calling his flagrant defiance of their subpoena contemptuous and unlawful, and it is. Biden has been subpoenaed in connection with the impeachment inquiry into his father. Congressman wanted answers to President Joe Biden's relationship with his son's shady overseas business deals and allegations of influence peddling. However, Mr. Biden brazenly defied the committee's subpoenas, choosing to read a prepared statement outside of the Capitol instead of appearing for a deposition as required by the subpoena. Mr. Biden's willful refusal to comply with the committee's subpoena constitutes contempt of Congress and warrants referral to the appropriate United States attorney for prosecution as prescribed by law. They're on, one of the things, we haven't heard a lot from them. That doesn't mean that the committee has not been continuing to do good work. Behind closed doors, the committee worked and will continue to work. They're building a pretty strong case here. And, and they're going to, and here's the thing, they'll find him in contempt, and then they will send that contempt citation over to the Department of Justice. And the Department of Justice has routinely, at least in other cases, they've taken up those contempt charges and they've tried to enforce them. And they have enforced them in some cases. You cannot, when subpoenaed by Congress, say no. You can come in and plead the fifth, but you have to show up. And they don't want him pleading the fifth, because then when he pleads the fifth, it'll come out he pled the fifth on everything, which means that, even though it's not supposed to be acknowledgement of guilt, you look pretty guilty when you do it. So they'll say, they don't want to do that, and they don't want to really answer questions, because if they answer questions, then you'll find out that, just exactly what were the dealings. And by the way, if you lie to Congress, that's a very serious charge as well. If you're under oath in a deposition and you lie to Congress, that's a serious charge as well. He doesn't want to, he's trying to avoid all of that. Wants to hold a big dog and pony show where he has the support of the Democrats who are sort of, blocking for him. opening up, and making sure that he doesn't get asked too many hard questions. And then every time that it came time for a Democrat to ask questions, they would simply rehabilitate the witness, as they say. So it's gonna happen. These are the two things that I think you're going to watch throughout this month and into February as these stories continue to burble and become more important. It is now 51 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk. Well, let's say hello to our good friends at Busy Bee HVAC and Plumbing, who, by the way, are sponsoring our trip to Iowa, as I mentioned just a few moments ago. Thank you so much for that. They want you to know that cold weather is here, and if you find yourself without heat or you have a problem with your plumbing, you should call them right away, 615-775-7833. Now, listen, these systems are not meant to last forever. They do have a shelf life, and if you're at the end of that shelf life and it's time to do something with your HVAC or your plumbing, why don't you give them a call? You're not going to find a better deal on HVAC and plumbing replacement systems. The way to avoid problems is to have good preventative maintenance, and that's what the Beehive Club is all about. But you get a lot for your $99. That's where it starts. 3 thorough maintenance services, one aimed at heating, one aimed at cooling, and one aimed at plumbing. No overtime charges, 24/7, 10% off all repairs. So Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling is your official Rude Pro partner for satisfaction guaranteed. Call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 775-7833, online at busybeehvac.com.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things I've been hearing a lot from people lately is the concern about the dollar crashing. And you'll see this out there on the internet all over the place, articles written about it. And the idea is that the Russian and Chinese, those countries are looking at getting together and creating their own currency that will compete against the US dollar as a reserve currency. Now, for many, many decades, there have been other currencies that have been trying to vie for that status. And there's a possibility that you're going to have some that are going to encroach on that a little bit. But is it that big of a thing to worry about? Well, number one, last year, the Chinese currency made up very little of any kind of world trade, number one. But what is it that's really going on underneath the surface? A lot of it is trying to sell you newsletters and investments that you probably ought to stay away from. For example, one of the things I see is, well, you ought to buy gold because the dollar's going to crash. And you see all of these commercials out there, and I say, well, wait a minute, wait. They're trying to get you to buy gold with your what? They're looking to take your dollars. If they really believe what they're saying, why would they take your dollars for their gold? Number one. Number two, how do you protect yourself against these valuation changes in various currencies? Well, let me explain it this way. Let's say that you had a currency called the clam. Okay, and you had a country that had one clam and you could exchange it for $1 at any one point in time. Let's say that that's the case. And you had a widget that was sold by this country and you could buy that widget in that country for 1 clam. So you take your $1, you exchange it for a clam, and then you got your widget. Now what if the dollar weakens? Well, what happens, now this clam is the same, right? Nothing different here, it's the same deal. But instead of $1, now it takes $2 to get the clam. Now what happened? Your widget just doubled in price from your perspective as an American. Well, how do we use this to our advantage? As an investor, we want to make sure that we don't just myopically only focus on U.S. stocks. And that's a big mistake investors made from 2000 through 2010 and other periods in history, in the 1970s, the late 1980s, and so on and so forth. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we have good international diversification, because if the dollar weakens, then those international investments go up in value. So it's very, very important to know how globally diversified you really are as an investor. You want to learn more? Call us up for a free 15-minute consultation at paulwinkler.com, paulwinkler.com, and we'll walk you through what we do and see if we can be of help to you, the investor out there that is so often being sold things that they really don't need to be buying.
Stinky, stinky. Is that what you encountered the last time you were at an auto repair shop? You know, smelly, greasy, old rags lying around, a countertop that you wouldn't dare touch. Another thing that stinks at repair shops is the ones that keep your car forever. They're not honest, and they don't call you back when they say they will. If that was your last experience at a vehicle repair shop, it's time to check out Eurofix. Eurofix will take the stink out of European auto repair. At Eurofix, you get a free 15-minute no-wrench inspection with an estimate at every visit. No high-pressure sales tactics. At Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment, and you'll never pay dealer prices. Eurofix now in Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and their newest location in Mount Juliet. Call 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEurofix.com and tell them your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you.
Six o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. 50 degrees right now, and a wind advisory has just begun in Middle Tennessee. It'll last until midnight on Wednesday. Wind gusts of up to 45 miles an hour possible in that wind advisory, and showers very likely tonight. And tonight also supposed to be the strongest wind gusts of that wind advisory. Latest forecast traffic report on the way in 5 minutes. Starting in Fort Worth, Texas, right now reports say that there was a gas explosion at the Sandman Hotel on Houston Street this afternoon. According to MedStar, there is as many as 11 patients. One patient reported as critically injured, 2 seriously injured. All of the patients have minor injuries. 9 patients have been transported to local hospitals, and a reunification center being set up right now near that area. Natural gas can still be smelled in the area. Crews are searching the building, making sure everyone was evacuated. The area now closed off to the public. And this just in Tennessee, several kids were treated for carbon monoxide exposure on Friday at a Tennessee school. Stacey Cameron from Channel 4 with more information.
I learned that the leak actually occurred here at the Elm Hill Academy Preschool on Friday. And I'm told that the leak was actually discovered when a parent entered the daycare with their own CO2 detector, and the alarm on that detector went off. Now, parents with children at Elm Hill Academy tell me they got a message on an app from the school just after 10 a.m. warning them about the CO leak, that the building was being evacuated and parents should come pick their kids up. The daycare would later tell parents that the leak came from a malfunctioning HVAC unit that provided air to 2 classrooms. And while no children were transported to the hospital by ambulance, parents I'm speaking with say at least 4 young children, some under the age of 1 year old, were taken to a local emergency room and treated.
And Elm Hill Daycare has not responded to questions about how long the leak was going on. They told parents that children had been evacuated through a message, but one mother came after an hour that message was sent, and she found her child still inside that gas-infected classroom. And in the wake of last week's incident of an unused door ripping off an Alaska Airlines plane in flight, airlines now beginning to expect their Boeing 737 MAX 9 jets. And now another airline reporting it has found issues on its planes. Alex Stone with the new details.
United Airlines says as it's been inspecting door plugs on its Boeing 737 MAX 9s identical to the one that blew off the Alaska Airlines plane on Friday night, it has found loose bolts and need additional tightening. It says United's team is fixing the problems, but this calls into question whether the Alaska door coming off was an isolated incident or if others were in danger of coming off as well.
And back in the volunteer state, the Tennessee Department of Health has released a list of the 25 most popular girl and boy names in Tennessee for 2023. Coming in at number 1 for girls was Charlotte. For boys, it was Liam. And then Olivia and Oliver came in at number 2. Amelia and James, number 3. Emma and William, number 4. And Ava and Noah at number 5 wrap up the top 5 names parents named their children last year. That is the latest news. Weather and traffic next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Well, good evening, everyone. 7 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in the chair on this Monday, January 8th. 1 week from today, we'll be broadcasting to you live from the Iowa caucuses. Our thanks to the folks at Busy Bee, HVAC and Plumbing, and the Charlie Daniels Journey Home Project for supporting our trip and sponsoring our trip. We're going to bring you all of the stuff that happens there leading up to the Iowa caucuses. Chris, I just looked. My app says that on Monday, the 15th of January, temperatures will reach a high of 0.
So even worse than I said.
That's right. And the overnight between Sunday and Monday, a balmy minus 12 degrees in Des Moines, Iowa. Whew. Tuesday overnight is Monday into Tuesday overnight, minus 5. But then on Tuesday, as I'm leaving to come back, it'll be a balmy 11 degrees. 11 degrees. Yeah.
Wow.
Practically, it's snowing there right now in Des Moines.
So that snow, think about this. The snow that is falling right now will still be there.
On the ground. It ain't going to melt. That's right. And that's what you see when you travel across Iowa is that, it stays cold there, at this time of year, really cold. And so it falls like on the fields that have been cut flat.
Mm-hmm.
The cornfields are all cut flat. And so you see these little stalks and then a lot of snow. Yep. And it just stays there. And the ground often frozen. I mean, just frozen solid.
Well, it's going to be frozen by the time you get there.
Yeah, it sure is. I can tell you that for sure. So, I used to have, because believe it or not, one of the coldest places I've ever worked was in Amarillo, Texas. It can get really brutally cold there. You wouldn't think it, but the Texas Panhandle is, it's sort of, up there a bit.
Some elevation there, yeah.
There's some. Well, yeah. They call it the high plains.
Yeah.
It's about I forget how exactly high it is, but it's I think about a half mile above sea level, which that's that, and it's flat. That's the main thing. They have a saying there. There's there's nothing between the North Pole and Amarillo except a barbed wire fence, and that's been blown down. And so when I used to be a reporter there and I used to do the most insane things. I used to hang out of helicopters.
Yeah.
In the middle of winter. I mean, we didn't have those nice, little ball cameras underneath with the gyro stabilized cameras.
No? You didn't have that?
No. We'd take the door off the aircraft. And I would hang out the side of it and shoot pictures. And believe me, I've got pictures of me doing this. I used to really do this. So one Christmas, I got somebody to give me a snowmobile suit.
Ooh.
And that was great.
Yeah.
Except that your face still freezes when you're doing 100 mile an hour and the temperature outside is near 0.
You need a ski mask.
Yeah, you need that for sure. But anyway, I'm used to the cold, but I don't have a snowmobile suit anymore. Maybe I should reinvest in one. Look like Nanak of the North up there.
You might want to find something.
You just go get me a snowmobile and drive around the greater environs of Des Moines.
Now that'd be something.
Yeah. But we'll bring you all the coverage, and I promise not to whine too much about how cold it is. I will tell you I'm going to whine about this because I don't understand this one whit. I don't understand this at all. The White House is responding to GOP calls that Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin should resign. And they're saying, no, the president still has full trust in the Secretary of Defense. And I got to tell you, I don't understand how in the world you could, because something went very badly wrong. So what do we know about this whole thing? I mean, we began to hear about this late last week, and over the weekend, more details came out. I can tell you this, the press corps that covers the Pentagon, there's an association of reporters that cover the Pentagon, are absolutely apoplectic about this because, number one, they're supposed to be notified. And then okay, they're probably way down the list, but the one person who should be notified was not really told everything about Lloyd Austin's, disappearance from the Pentagon. So it started out on the 22nd of December. He goes in for what is described as, quote unquote, an elective surgery. I don't know what that means. Maybe, it was it had something to do with, a little nip and a tuck. I don't know. Maybe, but it's elective, which means nothing urgent about it. It was elective. He elected. It wasn't like he went in there, clutching his heart. He made a decision to go in. And so he did have the surgery, and he did that and then was released. Until about New Year's Eve, where he is readmitted, said to be in extensive and very serious pain. From what, we don't know, because they won't tell us what he was in for. But apparently, he then remained in the at Walter Reed. So, the hospital knew he was there. It's a military hospital. But the Deputy Secretary of Defense, who was supposed to pick up the duties of the Secretary of Defense when the Secretary of Defense is incapacitated, was never made. It was not clearly understood until like Thursday of last week that he had been in the ICU and had apparently not been able to make decisions. We don't know exactly what happened, but he went back. And at some point, it appears he was incapacitated, unable to make decisions, because they asked her to make decisions, and she made the decisions, but they never really explained to her until about Thursday. We began to hear, oh, by the way, Lloyd Austin is in the ICU. He's in the ICU? Well, why didn't you tell us? Listen, the Secretary of Defense is key. He is sort of the liaison between the White House and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. We don't have military control of the Pentagon. We have always had civilian control. He's the highest ranking official. Civilian officials always lead the Pentagon. And they may have military experience, but they are civilians. They are no longer in the military. And so you're supposed to notify your deputy, and your deputy is then supposed to, be made aware. For one thing, the Secretary of Defense has a role when it comes to our nuclear weapons, and is in the nuclear weapon chain of command. And the deputy, who did not know that he was incapacitated and in the hospital, was on vacation in the Bahamas or somewhere in the Caribbean. I don't know, some island. Never knew it. Never knew that Lloyd Austin was incapacitated in the ICU. The very least they should have done was they should have sent somebody down to her to make sure that she had access to the nuclear codes and all the stuff that needed to happen, somebody to sort of, carry the football for her. But they didn't do that. She was blissfully unaware, as apparently so was the President of the United States, as was the National Security Council, as was the Vice President, as were members of Congress who were supposed to be notified about this as well. Nobody knew that he was in the hospital and incapacitated for days and days and days. And it comes now, okay, set aside, it's hard to say, there's anything more important than making sure that the nuclear capabilities of this country can be carried out if they need to be carried out. That's pretty important stuff. But let's just set that aside for a moment. There are a lot of other reasons why they should have told people that he was in the hospital. Like, for example, the fact that we have aircraft carriers that are shooting at little Houthi rebel boats, and Iran is sending its military ship, such as it is, into the Red Sea, where there could be potential conflict. What about the fact that Iranian proxies are firing missiles and hurting and attacking our forces that are splayed across the Mideast? Because they support, they want to support Hamas, so they are firing rockets and all kinds of artillery and stuff at our forces that are all, we have a lot of forces in that region, a lot of different bases, and they're coming under attack. What about the Chinese that have been adventurous? What about the Russians that have been adventurous? What about monitoring, the flow of weapons and intelligence that is going to our Ukrainian allies as they fight the Russians? The Secretary of Defense is key to all of these things, and for almost the better part of a week, nobody knew that he was in the hospital incapacitated. Here is Kirby. Here's John Kirby, who speaks on behalf of the National Security Council. Now, look, I mean, the president said he has my full confidence, and the Secretary of Defense, who's now out of the ICU but still in the hospital, has said, maybe I could have done a better job and communicated. You think? I think they could have done a lot better job. But here's what John Kirby said about that today as he was on Air Force One.
He's already doing all of the functions he would normally do. He's doing it right now from the hospital. We'll take a look at process and procedure here and try to learn from this experience. And if there's some changes that need to be made in terms of process and procedure, we'll do that.
Well, hold it. There are process and procedure, and what changes need to be made is you need to follow them. That's what needs to happen. Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas said, and there are many people on Capitol Hill, many Republicans calling for him to step down.
It's a matter of judgment. Whatever your process and procedure is, of course, when you're the Secretary of Defense or his Chief of Staff or other senior department official, and you know that you're going in for surgery, even if it's minor elective surgery, you have to have contingency plans if something goes wrong. You have to have the basic sound judgment to give a call to the president or the national security advisor and say, hey, I'm going in for this surgery, or you have to have your staff call in and do that. And if your judgment is so poor on such a simple matter, what does it say about your judgment on things like the withdrawal from Afghanistan, or the support for Israel in the Middle East, or efforts to deter China from attacking Taiwan? Someone is going to have to resign over this. And right now, since Lloyd Austin has taken responsibility for it, it would appear that Lloyd Austin is the person who needs to resign, or his chief of staff, or both of them. Because it also sounds like many senior Department of Defense officials were also not in the loop. Again, this is a shocking breakdown in the chain of command and basic communication within the department and to the White House. As you said, this is not the Secretary of Transportation or Housing and Urban Development. This is the Secretary of Defense, who's in the chain of command, including the nuclear chain of command, who has to be reachable and whose whereabouts and conditions have to be known at all times by the Commander-in-Chief. Just another example of Joe Biden falling down on the job.
Senator Wicker, who serves on the Armed Services Committee, says that we now have more questions than answer. Why was the notification process under 5 U.S.C. 3349 not followed, and who made the determination not to follow it? What role did the Secretary of Defense staff play? When exactly was the president notified? What justification did they have in doing this? For withholding information from the National Security Council, from key members of Congress? Great questions. Listen to this, though. I'll close with this. Heads have to roll, said Brett Bruen, according to the Washington Examiner. And Obama administration communications officials told Politico over the weekend, this is not a minor miscommunication. It's about the confidence that our national security structure has in its leadership and that the leadership is acting in a transparent way. There's somebody from the Obama administration saying heads need to roll. But it won't be apparently Lloyd Austin. It will be some other head. Somebody down the chain will take the fall for this, but Austin is the person ultimately responsible for the bad decisions that were made. 21 minutes now, past the hour of 6 o'clock. A question from our good friends at Beacon Capital Management. How are you faring in this rough and tumble market? Up and down, up and down, up and down. The experts at Beacon Capital Management understand it can be a little scary, but here's the thing. Beacon Capital Management has a plan to assess where you are and help you make any mid-course corrections that might be needed. Wouldn't it be great to have peace of mind that you're on the right path as you head closer and closer to retirement? Beacon can provide that reassurance, and it starts with a simple phone call, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon will get some information from you. You really have nothing to lose in this whole process except for potentially the worry that you have. So get started today by calling 615-488-9303. At the end of the process, you'll be able to rest easy knowing you have a plan that meets all your retirement goals. Replace the worry with confidence that you're on the right path. Again, the number, write it down, 615-488-9303. The experts at Beacon stand ready to take your stress away, and you can learn more at askbeaconnow.com. It is 26 minutes now past the hour. Some Tennessee news, local stuff. If you have an electric car or a hybrid, guess what? You're not going to get the break that you used to get. You're going to have to pay up $200 in additional fees starting this year. Going green, according to the Tennessean, may end up costing a little more than electric vehicle drivers were expecting in the state of Tennessee. Tennessee passed the Transportation Modernization Act of 2023. It increases the registration fee for electric vehicles and creates a registration fee for hybrid vehicles and plug-in hybrid vehicles. The fee, in addition to the registration fee that drivers were already paying to renew their vehicles, to some customers could end up paying an extra $100 to $200 a year for each vehicle. Yeah, that seems fair to me, actually. Because, the rest of us, we pay a lot of money every time we fill up our tanks. A great portion of the cost of a gallon of gas is taxes. And those taxes go to support the highway. the highway funds. And so that's how we pay for highways and roads. And then if you use you use a car, then you put gas in it, then you're paying as more gas you put in it, the more you pay. But electric vehicles, they don't get gas. They don't take gasoline. So how do they pay their fair share of what it costs? So I get it. I understand it. But I mean, the people in the electric car world who like their electric cars are going to be kind of irritated about that. So apparently you pay more in a fully electric vehicle than you would in a hybrid. And by the way, hybrids do use a little bit of gas. You fill up a small tank to run a generator that then runs your electric car, which is weird, but it works.
Some of them just have a combination of normal gasoline engine and an electric motor. Yeah,
that's right. January 2024 prices start at $200. In 27, it goes up to $274. And then after 2028, it could be adjusted annually. So, there's that. Be aware, all you electric and hybrid owners. We are beginning the new legislative session. It seems to me that the big story is going to be watching the school choice vouchers, major story going forward, where the proposal from the governor is that you get $7,000 to attend a private school or cover other educational expenses. First 10,000 slots would have an income requirement. There'd be additional 10,000 slots that don't have an income requirement, and that's in 2024, this year. In 2025, the program would expand to universal eligibility. So, they're trying to work out the kinks. We haven't seen the governor's bill yet. And I'm hearing that there are a lot of things that as you start to go through this whole process that they hadn't thought about. And so they're trying to figure out how to just sort of answer those things before they drop the bill. Some legislators have raised questions about, well, what about illegal immigrants? Are they going to get the $7,000? Doesn't seem like they should, but they're going to work through some of those issues. And again, the more you think about it, little things do come up. But, this is going to, I think, sail through the state legislature once they figure out what the legislation is. 30 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock. Let me tell you about the friends over at USS. You know, sometimes when we have big things that crop up around our house, we're a little afraid to find out what it really is. I mean, the truth is, it could be a big problem when you're talking about waterproofing and foundation repair. Or it could be a small problem that will become bigger if you don't do something about it. Or, it turns out it might be a minor thing and not much to worry about. Bottom line is, this is not your area of expertise, and you need to find somebody you can trust. And for me, the people you can trust are the folks over at United Structural Systems. 25,000 satisfied residential customers. And this is what they do. They come out to your house, they take a look at what's going on, and they try to give you their best judgment as to what needs to be done to fix your problem. And then if you decide to go forward, you don't pay a penny until the job is done and you're completely satisfied. That's right. I mean, honestly, what else could you ask for? And by the way, they're good, decent people. And they're not going to be trying to upsell you with a bunch of stuff. I've got all these recommendations from people who've done work with them, like Jerry and Hermitage. This is the best crew we ever had do work on our house. Constant, excellent experience. Put me at ease during the entire process. Listen, this is the place you want to go. USS. They guarantee their best, serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, Northern Alabama, online at USSTN.com. Here's the number, 615-488-7855. Well, good evening, everyone. 38 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and we got a few more minutes here before we hand it over to Mark Levin, the great one who will carry on throughout the rest of the evening. You know, I get to listen to Mark, a little sometimes after I get off the air, and I'm telling you, compelling radio. And, I just love it when it starts out, he's here. Like, oh, good. I'm glad because, you got a radio show starting in a few moments, so I'm glad you're there.
It's always weird, though, when he's actually not there, but they do that anyway.
I know.
He's got to fill in or something.
That's right. He's not here. Well, it wouldn't
doesn't
be
have
a
the
great
same
way
ring
to
to
start
it.
your radio show.
No.
No, that's right. Let's do a little 2024 because, 1 week from today, we kick it off. That's right, 7 days from today, the Iowa caucuses, and then just a few days before you go to New Hampshire. And, boy, we're off to the races. And I think by the time we get to mid-March, this thing is going to be decided. We're not going to know who the nominees are. Now, is it possible that the Democrat nominee changes? Yeah, I think it's entirely possible. This is going to be a rock'em sock'em election season. And we're planting our flag by beginning our coverage in Iowa on Monday. I'll be there for the entire show, making appearances throughout the day here on Super Talk 99.7 on other people's shows. So let's buckle down here and see what we have. First of all, where do I want to start? Well, the Democrats are really worried about the Biden campaign. There is a major piece that was in the Washington Post over the weekend which said that President Obama met with, and by the way, this gets leaked for a reason. Everybody wants to send the folks in the Obama orbit want to send the word that they're not happy with what's happening with campaign Biden. So Obama is at the White House last week, and he has a meal, I guess usually it's lunch, with Joe Biden. And he apparently told him, I'm not real thrilled with what I see you're doing in your campaign. I mean, do you even have a campaign? What's that all about? Trying to light a fire under his butt to, get out there and do some campaigning and raising concerns. Here's how NBC put it.
As President Biden ramps up his general election campaign, there are new warning signs. The Washington Post reporting former President Obama has raised questions about the structure of President Biden's reelection campaign. Two sources confirmed to NBC News that Obama and Biden met over lunch in December and discussed the campaign, with Obama expressing deep concern about Mr. Trump's political strength. Underscoring the urgency, one source telling me this is an all-hands-on-deck moment.
So apparently, I'm sorry, I misspoke. The dinner, the lunch, the whatever it was in December. But still, raising concerns, and that gets leaked out there that they've been raising some concerns about it. One of the things that Democrats are very concerned about is the fact that apparently the president is losing black support, something that hasn't happened for Democrats in forever. And that's not to say, based on the numbers I've seen, that Donald Trump is necessarily picking up that support. It's that black voters have said that they will go for a third-party candidate. They just can't bring themselves to vote for Joe Biden, and so they say we're gonna take our vote elsewhere. Or the worst of all possible outcomes is that black voters, who have traditionally been a very solid voting bloc for Democrats, simply sit on their hands and don't participate in this election. Well, that's either way, that's good for the Republicans, bad for the Democrats. Congressman James Clyburn was asked this weekend, are you concerned about this? Here's Jake Tapper.
How worried are you about black voters showing up for President Biden in November?
Well, I'm not worried. I'm very concerned, and I have
excuse me. I'm not worried. I'm very concerned. Well, okay, isn't being concerned the same as being worried? No, he's not worried. He's just very concerned.
Well, I'm not worried. I'm very concerned, and I have sat down with President Biden. I don't know. I saw those reports. I've also seen at least one report indicating that I have sat down.
Well, that's interesting. So you saw a report that you sat down. Well, did you?
With President Biden, and I did with him.
That's weird.
And I've told him what my concerns are. I have no problem with the Biden administration and what it has done. My problem is that we have not been able to break through that MAGA wall in order to get to people exactly what this president has done.
So here you have a black member of Congress and someone who speaks on behalf of many of the groups that are on Capitol Hill, like the Black Congressional Caucus, etc., who is saying that the reason that black people have not been able to to find support, a way to support the current president of the United States is because of the MAGA wall. How in the world does that work? And what planet does, do you think that black voters around the country are somehow being prohibited from, getting information by the MAGA wall? What is the MAGA wall? You insult your own voters when you suggest they're not smart enough to make an assessment of their own. But it's the MAGA people. They're keeping this information from black people. That's the most ludicrous thing that I've ever heard of. Okay, some other stuff that's out there. I love this. This is Kamala Harris speaking, and she says, it is the Republicans who are trying to silence the voice of the people. So I'm not quite sure I understand here. Here we go.
We fight to protect the sacred freedom to vote, while they try to silence the voice of the people.
All right, so let's break that up. Let's do that in two parts.
We fight to protect the sacred freedom to vote.
Well, I think that's what a lot of people are trying to do by requiring that every person who votes is qualified to vote. And that's called voter integrity. And the idea here is that you make sure that the person is qualified to vote. How is making sure that everyone gets one vote and one vote only, how is that keeping the silencing the voice of the people? And then the second part of it,
while they try to silence the voice of the people.
So Republicans are silencing the voice of the people. Let me get this right. The party that is doing everything that it can do to try to come up with a legal argument to keep Donald Trump off the election ballot in places like Colorado and Maine and other places, they're the ones who are silencing the voice of the people. It seems to me maybe they got that backwards, because it sounds like to me the Democrats are trying to silence the voice of the people by not allowing them to vote for the person they want to vote for, by keeping them off the ballot. Isn't that silencing the voice of the people? I think she has this backwards. Can somebody pull her aside and sort of explain this to her? It is not silencing the voice of the people to make sure that people who go to the polls to vote are qualified to do so. That's the law. It's enforcing the law. How is enforcing the law silencing the voice of the people? To make sure that there aren't dead people on the voting rolls. To make sure that you are who you say you are when you go to cast your ballot. To make sure that you're not abusing the write-in ballots, as I think was done, and it's hard to prove, but I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of that was done. The bundling, okay. I think there's some bundling abuse that went on, but, it's not supposed to happen in some places, but it does. One way or the other, it seems like nobody is really charging the Republicans with these things. She's an idiot. I mean, and this is their backup. We got a guy who can't find his way off the stage without his wife grabbing him by the hand and helping him off, a feeble old man off the stage. Here, Grandpa, this way. This is the way you came in. Remember, just a few moments ago, you came in this way. We're going out the same way. His wife, when he showed up for his big speech the other day, his wife walked him to the podium, held his hand and walked him to the podium. And then, he did his speech, and I predicted it. It happened while I was talking to Matt Murphy. I said, you watch, at the end of this speech, she's going to show back up to make sure he doesn't look like a lost goose as he leaves the stage. And sure enough, she showed up just as he was saying his last line. And they wave at the crowd, and she grabs Grandpa's hand and walks him off the same way he came in. And they're going to do that. You'll see it time and time again. He's so incapable of being president that he can't find his way off the stage without his wife holding his hot little hand. Isn't that special? Isn't that special? Okay. Then there was this regarding certification of the elections afterwards. This is, I think, happening on, MSNBC. I apologize for not knowing. But Elise Stefanik is their guest, and maybe it was NBC. NBC is what it was. And they tried to pin her down about, will you be willing to certify the elections? And she said, well, not if there was some hanky-panky going on. And they're just stunned, shocked, and amazed that she won't go along with it.
Would you vote to certify, and will you vote to certify the results of the 2024 election, no matter what they show?
Well, I voted not to certify the state of Pennsylvania because, as we saw in Pennsylvania and other states across the country, that there was unconstitutional acts circumventing the state legislature and unilaterally changing election law.
What about 2024? What about 2024?
We will see if this is a legal and valid election. What we're seeing so far is that Democrats are so desperate, they're trying to remove President Trump from the ballot. That is a suppression of the American people, and the Supreme Court is taking that case up in February. That should be a 9-0 to allow President Trump to appear on the ballot, because that's the American people's decision to make this November.
And the matter is, of course, halted pending that appeal, as you say. But just to be very clear, I don't hear you committed to certifying the election results. Will you only commit to certify the results if former President Trump wins? Does that mean if former President Trump wins?
No, it means if they are constitutional. What we saw in 2020 was unconstitutional circumventing of the Constitution, not going through state legislatures when it comes to changing election law. And we're seeing this in my home state of New York, Kristen.
Well, there you go. She's talking about not being able to,
will you vote to certify?
Why in the world would you, excuse me, I'm sorry, I can't make it stop.
Election, no matter what they show.
Well, I voted not to certify
apologize.
the state of Pennsylvania.
Let's turn it off. There we go. She wouldn't shut up. It is now 50 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. Grace Point Healthcare delivers medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing, so you'll know how much it costs when the care is delivered, or actually before the care is delivered. Smart Care plans start at $69 a month. You get unlimited office visits, free basic labs for the entire year, and because they treat the entire family, even newborns, they offer family plans as well. Now, if you marry this with a high-deductible insurance plan you may already have, you could save you and your family a lot of money. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. There are no long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast of Music City year after year after year. Grace Point Healthcare is on Main Street in Franklin. Call this number, 599-6868, to schedule a visit.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the things I've been hearing a lot from people lately is the concern about the dollar crashing. And you'll see this out there on the internet all over the place, articles written about it. And the idea is that the Russian and Chinese, those countries are looking at getting together and creating their own currency that will compete against the US dollar as a reserve currency. Now, for many, many decades, there have been other currencies that have been trying to vie for that status. And there's a possibility that you're going to have some that are going to encroach on that a little bit. But is it that big of a thing to worry about? Well, number one, last year, the Chinese currency made up very little of any kind of world trade, number one. But what is it that's really going on underneath the surface? A lot of it is trying to sell you newsletters and investments that you probably ought to stay away from. For example, one of the things I see is, well, you ought to buy gold because the dollar's going to crash. And you see all of these commercials out there, and I say, well, wait a minute, wait. They're trying to get you to buy gold with your what? They're looking to take your dollars. If they really believe what they're saying, why would they take your dollars for their gold? Number one. Number two, how do you protect yourself against these valuation changes in various currencies? Well, let me explain it this way. Let's say that you had a currency called the clam. Okay, and you had a country that had one clam and you could exchange it for $1 at any one point in time. Let's say that that's the case. And you had a widget that was sold by this country and you could buy that widget in that country for one clam. So you take your $1, you exchange it for a clam, and then you got your widget. Now, what if the dollar weakens? Well, what happens now, this clam is the same, right? Nothing different here. It's the same deal. But instead of $1, now it takes $2 to get the clam. Now, what happened? Your widget just doubled in price from your perspective as an American. Well, how do we use this to our advantage? As an investor, we want to make sure that we don't just myopically only focus on U.S. stocks. And that's a big mistake investors made from 2000 through 2010 and other periods in history, in the 1970s, the late 1980s, and so on and so forth. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we have good international diversification, because if the dollar weakens, then those international investments go up in value. So it's very, very important to know how globally diversified you really are as an investor. You want to learn more? Call us up for a free 15-minute consultation at paulwinkler.com, paulwinkler.com, and we'll walk you through what we do and see if we can be of help to you, the investor out there that is so often being sold things that they really don't need to be buying.